Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming here today. First off, obviously, we're here to talk about Hurricane Fiona. And yesterday and the last couple of days have been very difficult, particularly for people on the southwest coast and the west coast of the island. It's hard not to see through social media and friends and family the destruction of homes and things on that part of the island. And it's very difficult to see, but rest assured that we're going to do everything we can now over the next little while to help the residents in that part of the province with cleanup and getting their lives back together. I do want to say that there was some comments yesterday, and we heard from the RCMP about a potential lost life, and they were unable to, after they heard that a woman was swept out into the ocean, they were unable, obviously, to get down to the water to do a search, but it has officially turned into a recovery mission now, and the RCMP will get to work on that as soon as it's safe to do so. But thoughts and prayers are certainly with the members of that individual's family, because lost lives obviously clearly cannot be replaced, and we're very sorry to hear that that did happen yesterday in the storm.
Yeah, and I'll just echo those thoughts. Anytime there's potential of loss of life, it certainly brings home the reality of what's going on here. And my thoughts and prayers are with the family, and certainly with the community. I chatted with the mayor yesterday, and to hear the mayor say that it's total devastation and it's like a war zone, then those words are harsh words, no doubt, and it shows the reality of what's going on out there and the challenges that the community is facing. But us as department, being responsible for transportation and infrastructure, and municipal infrastructure in particular, and we're there to support them and offer whatever resources is needed for the mayor and that community and other communities as well.
I was wondering, could you just describe a little bit more what is some of the assistance that the province is offering to folks in these communities that are affected?
So first of all, obviously, cleanup efforts are going to start as soon as it's reasonably safe to do so. I do want individuals to listen to their community leaders right now, certainly in the Burnt Island area and the Port aux Basques area, where they're still under an emergency order. The weather warnings have been lifted, but it's not safe necessarily to go back to your homes quite yet. So listen to the information that's being provided by those community leaders to stay where you are until it's safe to go somewhere else. And when you do return to your home, obviously, make sure you do so in a safe way. The structure could be compromised. We've seen houses simply blow away or be swept into the ocean. So even though your house may still be standing, it might not be safe to enter or to move around as you normally would. So make sure you take those precautions if and when it's safe to go home. In terms of efforts that we're going to make, you're here now at the Provincial Emergency Operations Center, and there's individuals here who are dealing with the RCMP, search and rescue, air assets, everything that we have on this island and this province that's available to help with the cleanup efforts and the safety efforts in that part of the province. We're going to make available to those people. I've also signed a letter very recently today to go to Minister Bill Blair to formally request assistance from the federal government. I've been speaking to him several times over the last couple of days, even before the storm hit, and he was aware that in all likelihood we were going to need the assistance of the federal government. So we'll work out the details of what that looks like over the next couple of days as well.
Yeah, from a transportation perspective, I mean, we've been monitoring not just for Hurricane Fiona, but certainly for hurricane season, because it's a reality among us all now. And so we've been doing our due diligence there. But in terms of roadways in the province, it's it's cleaning up of debris, so it's no major damage to roadways at this point. And but from a municipal perspective, we will be working with the town and talking to departmental officials. We have an ADM that's on the ground out there now, and we'll be having more engineers are on site and assessing the damage, but we'll be offering whatever resources they need in order to help them get through this most difficult time.
How long do you think it's going to be before these people that are currently evacuated from their homes can go back and want to assess the damage and kind of rebuild what has been lost?
So, we can't put any timelines on that. The storm has just sort of ended very, very recently, and we don't want to rush anybody back. So, as I said, it's in the hands of the community leaders out there with regards to state of emergencies, and they're on the ground, they're doing the assessments, and they'll determine when it's safe to do so to return to people's houses.
In terms of federal support, I know Nova Scotia has asked for the military. I think what did you ask for?
So when we ask for support, we certainly have conversations going back and forth between us and the federal government about what that could look like. You have to understand too, like the letter that was sent was we are going to need help. It's very clear that we will need the federal government's help, and they've offered, so we're going to take them up on that. As we move through the next couple of days, it's really an assessment of how bad the damage is, what has been damaged, and what we are going to need. So as we work through that over the next couple of days to see what sort of supports we will need from the federal government, that's when more details will emerge about exactly what they're going to be able to offer us and what they'll send here.
What's next? Like, what is the most important aspect right now when you leave here right now? What are you doing?
Safety is always the most important aspect. That's why this is the third time I'll say it. I want everybody to listen to the orders that are in place with regards to when you can return home. I have said over the last couple of days, as traumatic and devastating as it must be to lose a family home, some homes which I'm sure have been in families for more than 1 or 2 or maybe 3 generations, all your belongings, everything you have has been washed out to sea. We can rebuild and we can replace those things, but you can't repair and replace the lost life. So that's the #1 priority, and that's always going to remain the #1 priority. When everything is safe to do so, we'll certainly look at the details of how we're going to rebuild those communities.
And I think important here to remember is that the assessment process does take time, and that's priority right now. And we'll be certainly reaching out to all community leaders to ensure that they have the resources needed in order to deal with the task ahead. But time is of the essence here. We realize that, and but we'll be doing due diligence on what's required. And as I said, in terms of the families that have lost their homes. And the community that's dealing with this, that will be our priority to get out there and support them.
We know that Port has received some of the worst damage from the storm. What other areas are you looking at?
We had Route 90 in St. Vincent's Beach area that was closed, and that was for safety purposes, cleaning out of debris, but that's now been reopened. That was done this afternoon. So we have also, Road to Cape Ray closed as well, and all of those roads were not major damage, but more debris cleanup, and we've been out doing work out on those sites. So some sections are reduced as well, and that's more to safety. And if I can say anything to as Minister Hogan has said as well, is safety is always first, and we need people to stay away from the affected areas and let the crews do their job and get it done.
I want to ask about the timing of this conference. So Nova Scotia and PEI, they had news conferences, I think it was early yesterday sometime. This is the first time we had a press conference from our provincial government. Why wait so long? Why not do something yesterday?
Well, a press conference is one thing, and we certainly wanted to see what the damage was and let the leaders in that community and the people here at the Emergency Operations Center do their work and make sure everyone was safe first and foremost. I certainly took time yesterday to speak to media when I had requests, so the fact that it's not necessarily everyone here in one room, we did take the time. We were always available. We never turned anybody away. Public or social media, is the way we get our message out as well. So we were always available to talk to any and everyone about these issues, including individuals in the communities as well that wanted to hear directly from us.
Yeah, and if I can say, news conferences is we need to get information out to people, but recognizing what was happening yesterday, talking to the MHA, talking to the mayors, I believe is the most important thing to start out with, because and just reassuring them that we're there, the supports are there, and I was available. I did an interview yesterday with NTV, so and again I go back to that. The most important thing is for me as Minister and Minister Hogan as well, on this government and the Premier as well, is connecting with the community leaders to offer whatever supports they need.
The science is pretty clear that this sort of event was not only inevitable, but will likely happen again. What sort of long-term measures is the province looking at to try to mitigate these problems?
So this is the second press conference I've done here at the Emergency Operations Center in the last few months. Minister Loveless was here with me last time when we were dealing with forest fires in central Newfoundland. Port aux Basques has seen an event not as bad as this, but huge rainfalls last year, I think up towards 600 millimeters. So we are seeing them much more frequently. The Department of Public Safety, that portion of my portfolio, is really being, a lot of enhancement put on that, a lot of focus put on that in the past, and it will probably strengthen as we go forward, because it's quite clear we are going to need to be aware that these are going to happen more often than not, and we are always going to be committed to making sure that we're fully prepared for storm events like this in the future.
Yeah, and if I can speak to that in terms of what we do in response or being proactive in terms of planning as well. I've had many conversations with the federal various ministers about how we prepare for this, and we have a lot of roadways in this province that are close to the ocean, and so we're looking at that to be proactive in terms of preparing for how do we protect our roadways. And even when, this year, a lot of our road construction included replacements of culverts. And these culverts are larger culverts in response to, I guess, the climate change consideration of it all. And so any culvert that we put back now is 30% larger, and maybe even larger depending on the roadway itself or the project. So we are being proactive, I guess, in terms of our planning, because we realize that these weather patterns are happening a lot, and it's due to climate change, and climate change is real.
Previously, we heard, before the storm, we heard from a couple of municipalities saying how they were requesting support prior to the storm. Did you have any municipalities come forward and ask for additional funds or things like breakwaters or anything like that before the storm?
Well, we've been, and I'm not sure which one you're referencing. If you could, I would be more specific.
I don't want to put any words in anyone's mouth. I believe it was a municipality around the St. Mary's Bay area,
right,
as well as on the West Coast.
Yeah, I think not to my knowledge in terms of the West Coast, the St. Vincent's area, the breakwater, Trapassio's in contact and conversations with the MHA there as well. I mean, we had a storm that happened there last year. And, and the application process, it does take time, and work needs to be done there. And my officials from a municipal infrastructure perspective has been in contact with those municipalities and planning around what we need to do. Because there has been some temporary fix, but obviously not long-term fix. And, building of breakwaters, I've seen around the province in many instances that the wood structure of breakwaters just don't correct the problem. So the rock walls do. So, but there's a cost element to that as well, and the affordability for some towns and stuff is part of the discussion process. But again, I've had many discussions with federal minister about disaster mitigation funding and stuff to put a long-term protection in those communities so we don't see this happening, right? So, and that's ongoing as we speak.
Okay, that's everything. Thanks, folks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.